start with the introduction to C++ programming. C++ is a popular programming language introduced by John Strostrup in the year 1979. The aim was to make a dynamic language that is efficient and has some additional features to C. Initially, it was called C with classes as it was an extension to C language, but later renamed as C++. It is general purpose case sensitive language and it is called pre-compiled language because it converts the source code directly to the machine understandable code. It is an intermediate level language because it contains both features of high level and low level language. C++ supports the features of object-oriented language like encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, etc. It also supports procedural programming and functional programming as well. Now, as we have understood about C++ programming, let's move on to our first program in C++. So the first program for beginners is Hello World program. In this program, Hello World is printed. It is very basic program and in the first part of the program we are including a header file #include iostream. Header files are generally used to import features into the program. Functions like cin, which is used to take the input from the user, and cout, which is used to display the output, are defined in this iostream header file. Here using namespace standard means we are using all the things which are within the standard library. The second part of the program is main function. This is a special function from where the execution of program starts. Inside the main function, we are printing hello world using the cout, which is used to print the output. Return 0 on the next line will indicate the program that nothing will return and program executed successfully. So let's try this hello world program on our code editor, that is VS Code. So let's first of all name the file hello.cpp. So first of all we'll include the header files #include iostream and then namespace standard we'll write using namespace std. Now we'll write the main function, that is int main. Now inside this function we'll print using cout and we'll write hello world. After that we'll write return 0. Alright, now let's try to run this. As we can see, hello world is getting printed over here. So this is how it's done. So now let's move to our next topic, that is types and variables. Coming to types and variables. In C++ there are different types of data type that acts as a keyword which is responsible to define a variable. First is Boolean data type. This keyword is used when we have two values, either true or false, and these values are used when there are conditions. For example, if the condition is satisfied, then it's true, otherwise it will return false. Next is character data type. This character data type is used when we are dealing with alphabets and symbols, and it is used to hold a single character within the variable. Integer data type. This data type is used for integer values. They can be both positive and negative. Next is float data type. Float is used when we want to store values that are in decimal form. Now, variables. Variables are used with these data types. It is generally used to store values. And this is the syntax to define a variable. First, we will mention the data type and then the variable name of our choice. For example, int is the data type and data is the variable name. Moving to arrays. Arrays are one of the most important and widely used concepts in C++. It can be defined as a collection of similar kind of elements. The elements of array are stored in contiguous memory locations, that is, one after the other. Arrays make it possible to store multiple values of the same data type into a single variable. The syntax to declare an array is first we will mention the data type, then the array name, and after that number of elements inside the brackets. Our next topic is strings. We can define strings as a collection or group of characters. It is basically used to represent text in the program, and we can perform many operations on strings in order to manipulate it. The syntax of string contains a collection of characters surrounded by double quotes. For example, here string is the type, str is the name of the string, and coffee is the value that is assigned to the string. In C++, there are two ways to create a string. First is C-style strings. In C-style strings, collection of characters are stored in the form of arrays. They are basically arrays of type character. The second way is using string objects. We can create string object to hold a string. They are implemented in the standard library, which we must include in the program using #include. Next is if-else statements. If-else are two conditional statements that are generally used when we want to run the code based on some conditions. We run a block of code which is inside if statement only if the condition is true. For example, if the number variable here is equal to 10, then only the block of code will execute and will print the message you got it. Otherwise, it will run the else block and display the message written inside that block, which is not this one. Now, coming to loops. First is for loop. For loop is the repetition control structure that allows us to repeat a block of code for a fixed number of times, instead of repeating the same code again and again. The syntax of for loop has three parts. First is initialization. It is used to initialize the loop. Next is condition, which is used to determine when to end the loop. And last is updation, which is used to update the loop variables. For example, inside the loop I equal to 0 means we have initialized the loop from 0, and I less than 10 means the loop will keep on repeating until I becomes less than 10. That is, it will repeat for 10 times in total from 0 to 9, and I++ denotes that we are incrementing the loop after each iteration by 1. Another type of loop is while loop. While loop are used in C++ when we don't know the exact number of times the loop should repeat. It repeats the statements till the given condition is true. The syntax of while loop is while keyword and condition in the brackets, and the loop will iterate till that condition is true. And once the condition becomes false, then the control passes outside the loop. For example, in this while loop, the condition is number less than 10. That means the loop will keep on iterating till the number is less than 10. That is, till when it becomes equal to 9. And inside the loop, after printing the variable number, we are incrementing the variable because we want to increment the variable number after each iteration. Now, moving on to functions. Functions in C++ are a group of statements that are designed to perform a specific task. It allows us to write a code inside the function, and then we can use that code every time when we need it by simply invoking the function. We can also pass arguments to the function. The syntax of function is type, function name, and then the parameters. Inside the function brackets, we can write the code and we can invoke the function by calling it from the main function. So as we have understood these concepts, so let's move on to our code editor, that is VS Code, to do some examples on these concepts. So here we will do an example in which we will find the number of even elements and odd elements using array, for loop, and if-else statements. So let's first of all make a new file. Let's name this file as basic.cpp. Okay, so first of all we'll include the header files. Now we'll write using namespace standard. Now we will include int main and int main, and here we will declare an array arr, and we'll write and we'll mention the elements 2, 7, let's say 12 and 9. Okay, now first of all we'll initialize the variables. Let's say int even 0, and we'll initialize odd variable with 0 as well. Now we'll write int length because we want to find size of the array, and for that we'll write size of array name, then divide size of array of 0. So now I'll explain this part. Here we have an array which has 5 integers, and since size of an integer is 4 bytes, therefore size of array is 5 into 4, that is 20 bytes. Now int length, we have written int length equals size of array divided by size of array of 0, that is 20 divided by 4, that is equal to 5. So 5 is the size. Here size of array of 0 is the size of element at index 0. We can take any index here, like array of 1, array of 2 or array of 3. So now we know the length of the array. So here we will include the for loop, and we'll start with int I equals 0. We have initialized I with 0. Now I less than length, this one. Here I have written I less than length, that is I less than 5. Okay. Now I plus plus, we are incrementing it. Now we have to use if condition because we want to find the even elements and the odd elements, and for that we have to include if condition. So we'll write if array of I mod 2, that is if an element on dividing by 2 gives 0 as a remainder, then it is even element. So we'll increment the even variable, this which we have initialized 0 will increment over here. Okay, so now in else block we'll write odd plus plus. It means that if this condition is not true, then the odd variable will increment. Alright, now we will print the variables. So we'll write even numbers, and we are printing these outside the for loop so that they don't repeat with the for loop. So that is why we have printed these outside the for loop. Okay, now we'll write the variable even, and L for the new line. Similarly we'll write odd numbers. The variable odd, and after that we'll write return 0. Okay, so this is the code. So now let's try to run this one. There is some error. Okay, yeah, the spelling is wrong. Yeah. Okay, let's try again. Yeah, here it is. As we can see, even numbers 2, odd numbers 3.